it sounds like a fucking animal shelter.
Yeah.
You know, it was like, it sounded like a jungle in there. And I just remember thinking, oh my God, this is going to be hard as fuck.
Hey, this is Matt Cox, and we're doing a video on, or a podcast on Andrea Carswell's story. I say it right? Andrea?
Yeah.
Andrea,
Yep.
okay.
Andrea,
Carswell. Yep. Okay. So, and so that's it. So I'm sorry. I mean, I just don't know much about the story. So
Okay.
I know you were on I always say, I'm going to tell you this too. I don't know if I mentioned this the other day. Mm-hmm. I always say Doc TV.
Mm-hmm. A lot of people, I think, read it that way.
Yeah, but he always says DOC, and I was like, bro, why do you say DOC? He's like, Department of Corrections. Like, why are you saying Doc? And I was like, because I thought like maybe that was your nickname. He was like, what are you, nuts? And I was like, no, I really genuinely have felt this whole time, like probably in prison, his nickname was Doc.
Yeah. A lot of people, I think, read it Doc, but yeah, it's DOC.
So anyway, Florida Department of Corrections. So it's DOC TV 813.
Yep.
And so anyway, you were interviewed on there, and so yeah, we're going to do an interview, and we're just going to talk about, you've been in prison twice. You've got 22 felonies.
22 convictions, yeah, felony convictions by the age of 22. I'm almost 32 now, but yeah.
So where were you born?
So I was born in Pontiac, Michigan, and then my family decided to move down here to Florida when I was about 11, like right before Detroit really started to fall. My family decided to move out of there and come down here. We lived with my grandmother for a little while, and then my parents built a house in our neighborhood. And so I started going to school. I ended up having to go to summer school after 5th grade because I was behind a little bit, which is weird or whatever to go to summer school that young. And I met one of my first friends.
I went to summer school. I even failed like the 2nd grade.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I met one of my first friends in Florida, and her and her family lived 2 houses down from where my parents were building their house. And she had a huge family, seven brothers and sisters total. And we got really close. But there was a lot of older, her brothers and sisters were older. So that's where I kind of started hanging out there, and we all started doing drugs together and stuff like that. When I met them, I was 11. We probably started dabbling in drugs and stuff when we turned like 13, 14, started smoking weed and doing that stuff. But then we ended up trying pain pills. When I was growing up, when I was in like the age where you're trying new drugs, experimenting, having fun, partying, it was like the pain pill epidemic. And so, unfortunately, which are super addictive, so that's what I got hooked on at the age of about 15. I was addicted to pain pills. So like through almost all my high school years. Yeah.
Okay.
So, I don't know if people know about the a pain pill addiction and stuff, but the withdrawals from it are severe.
Right.
You will do almost anything to get them. So that's where I was at. I was in high school still, barely struggling to make it through. Trying to hide it from my parents because my family doesn't use drugs. My mom doesn't. My brother doesn't. My dad didn't. I was kind of like the black sheep of that. And so I made it through high school, barely.
I mean, did they figure out, were you caught several? You have to have been caught.
Yeah. I mean, of course, my mom could see it. I was obviously skinny, drawn out, tired, staying away from home all the time. I would miss school. So they figured it out. And then I ended up, she always knew, but I would never tell her. So then finally I wanted to get clean. When I think I was about 17, I might have been, or I maybe just turned 18. I was like, I'm done. I want to get clean. So I told my dad. And my dad was like, well, we knew something was going on, whatever. So then when my mom got home, I told her. And my mom actually worked for pain management. She has her whole life. She does medical billing, but she's worked for a pain management doctor. So when I told my mom what pills I was using, she immediately knew the problem and immediately knew how serious it was. And I tried to use, she took me to one of her doctors, and I tried to get off of pain pills with Suboxone.
Right.
And
Suboxone, that's huge in prison. Then guys get out. They'll get addicted to Suboxone.
Yeah. So when I started taking it, it was still in a pill. They didn't have they have strips now. They didn't have those. It was still a dissolvable pill, and it was super expensive. They were I think they were $14 a pill in the pharmacy, which is at the time oxycodone, Roxy's were $1 in the pharmacy, 80 cents. So that's one of those things with society. It's what the fuck. Who's going to get off pain pills if their pain pills are only 80 cents if they have to pay $14 for a pill that's not going to get them high? I never got high on Suboxones. What I would do is I would sell them. I ended up selling them to get pills because I didn't want to, I thought I was ready, but I wasn't.
And you were 17.
I was 17, maybe 18. I was it was right there, right getting ready to graduate high school, all that. So I did that. That didn't work. I continued to use, and eventually I started to be an IV user. I started to inject pain pills.
What? Oh, pain pills? I was
Yeah.
going to say, because a lot of people will move from like oxys to like heroin because it's cheaper.
So heroin always freaked me out. It always scared me. I don't know what it is. I guess it's just because I felt like pain pills, I knew what they were. It's a pill. It came from the pharmacy. I know what's in it. I know it could still kill me, and if I, overdose and all that. But heroin and stuff like that always freaked me out because, I was always been told about rat poison and shit like that in heroin. So
I think also it's like to me it's got less of a stigma to it. To me, like I don't feel like I've ever really taken drugs, but you did take pharmaceutical drugs,
Yeah.
and I'm thinking, well, yeah, but I had a prescription. Well, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing? Like, what's the difference between that if you didn't have so the difference is I have a script. Mm-hmm. The doctor said it was okay.
Yeah.
So it's just stupid.
And
But
the
in my
doctors were
mind, it
just
made it
legal
okay.
drug dealers back then. Yeah.
Yeah.
They were just legal drug dealers. So I forgot where I was at.
Sorry. You were
You're
the
good.
Suboxone, and then you were switched to oxycodone. You were actually
Oh yeah, so I ended up not getting clean with Suboxone.
You were shooting oxycodone.
So I started shooting oxycodone because just snorting Oxycontin and Roxy's wasn't enough anymore. So I had started shooting it, I was one of like the first in like my friend group, our whatever, to start shooting. So it was weird.
How do you even figure that out?
What to shoot?
Yeah. I mean, it's a pill.
So I
dissolve
did
it?
it, I was hanging out with this kid who actually the first thing I ever had shot in my life was cocaine, to be honest. I was hanging out with this kid and we were, snorting pills, whatever, and he was shooting pills. Well, I didn't want to shoot pills, but he's like, well, try cocaine. So I shot cocaine. Well, then after that, I was like, you know what? Now I want to try shooting pills. And then, you just dissolve it. But somebody teaches you.
Right.
You just find out how. It's scary at first, especially injecting yourself. You're like, oh my God, what if I blow my vein up? Da-da-da. But the need to use the drug overrides all that fear.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it overrides it. So I went there. And I started dating a guy who was 17 years older than me. At that time, I was 19 probably at this time. I had gone to jail for like 6 months for some misdemeanors for petty thefts, and I did like 6 months for that, and I got out and started dating this guy who was 17 years older than me. He did pills, went to the doctor, all that, and he would write fake prescriptions. So I was with him, and he would buy the blank prescription paper, and he would take them to somebody to print them out. Well, I was and he would pay them for it.
This was before they had the federal the system.
Way before.
Yeah.
This is
so
when
you could doctor shop.
You could doctor shop. This is when I specifically remember this. It was in 2011. I remember reading an article that Rick Scott said that we could not afford that system in Florida to link the pharmacies, but we were one of the only states who did not have it.
Right.
Which is absolutely insane.
Right.
Absolutely insane. What do you mean we can't afford it?
This was after he got his entire healthcare system got indicted and paid that massive fine, and then he becomes the governor of Florida, and
says that we can't afford a pharmaceutical company to stop doctors shopping and fucking
right. And I actually knew a guy who bought one of the hospitals that they owned.
Oh wow!
And they continued to just do business the same way, and then 2 years later they got indicted.
Oh wow!
And he ended up going to prison for like 5 years or something.
I've seen a lot of, when I was in jail waiting to go to prison my second time, I seen they were bringing a lot of doctors and a lot of girls in and to tell on doctors and pharmacies and everything and bring them all down. So,
but the guy that owns it, he doesn't get, it's always,
lower.
They pay a fine and run for governor.
It's crazy.
So anyway, I'm sorry, go ahead.
So, I started dating him, and I went with him one time when he was getting the scripts printed. And when I seen the girl doing it, I was like, I can fucking do that. I don't need to pay her $50 a script to do this.
Right.
So we bought at the time you could buy prescription paper online and have it delivered right to your house. 100 sheets, or 100 sheets, 4 scripts per sheet, $50. Nothing.
Right.
You can make, that's what, 400 scripts or whatever, So we did that, and so I started printing on myself. Well, when we started printing on myself, at the same time, my boyfriend was also doctor shopping. So he was seeing 8 doctors a month, Plus, we were writing fake prescription in his name, my name, and then other people.
So he's making that's a bunch of money.
It's a bunch of money, but we're also using.
Right.
You know, he's doing 9 and 10 pills in a shot. You know what I mean? And I'm doing 4 or 5. You know, whatever. So it's a lot. Like, believe it or not, like, it's crazy. I want to be like, yeah, it's a lot of money. We made a lot of money. We had a lot of shit, but we were barely paying our fucking rent.
Right.
You know what I mean? Barely paying rent. Rent at that time was $850 for a 3-bedroom house.
Right.
You know what I mean? And we're barely making that because of our habits. So we did that for a long time, and we had the whole setup. I had a fucking calendar at the house, and it would say this doctor, and we only use this pharmacy. So then, you know what I mean? So every month we were doing that. Well, then eventually you meet pharmacists who are
going.
for real, you know,
Right.
like the expo boards and shit. So eventually you meet pharmacists and stuff like that who are dirty, and then you just start buying scripts from them straight
Right.
out without any prescription. I met a pharmacist, and really you just approach them. You know, and they can either say yes or no, you know? And so we approached them. We asked them if we could just start buying bottles, which a bottle would be 100. A pharmacy bottles is a bottle of 100 pills.
Right.
And he was like, yeah. So he would sell them to us for cheaper, but he would only let us have a certain amount a month.
Yeah, but it's also monitored. So, like, what's he doing? Just shorting somebody a pill or two
I have
here?
no idea. He would tell us, I can only sell you 9 bottles a month. That was it.
Because that's probably what he figured out. That's the
Yeah.
most I can get away with.
Because when you were filling your scripts, they were getting, like $1 a pill. But if he sold them to me, we'd pay him $3 a pill.
Right.
And then we'd go sell them at that time for 10 and 12. So,
And what's funny is, like, I honestly, like, if that's what they're doing, like, I was thinking, like, if you get 30 pills in a bottle or something, like, you never break it out and count the pills.
nope, you never break them out and count them. And most people don't take every single pill, especially when it comes to painkillers.
Right.
Unless you're an addict, of course. But, like, if my father was to get a prescription for painkillers, he would have them left for years. Because
Right.
he would literally only take them when he needed them. So, I don't know what they were doing, but...
Yeah, I guess, you know what? He could be, like, if you had a script and you hardly ever came in, but the script was on file, he could just start filling those, and the insurance company or the person wouldn't know that their script had just been filled. Mm-hmm. And okay, yeah.
And if he didn't run it, and if he didn't run it through their insurance, because, like, I had a girl who walked prescriptions for me, so
I didn't even
and
think about that.
she had Medicaid, so I'd take her to CVS. She'd use her Medicaid. It would cover the Roxy's, Oxys, and Xanax fully. And then I'd take her to a mom and pop pharmacy because the pharmacies were not linked.
Right.
And she wouldn't use her insurance. So she could run 2 scripts like that. And she could use her insurance once and not use one.
How much money would that be if you didn't have a habit? I mean, that would be...
I would have to write it down
Right.
to figure it out. It's so much money. So at that time they were writing scripts for you got to think oxycodones they were writing them for like $240 a month. And then they would couple them with like 90 Oxycontin 80s, and then you'd have like 90 Xanax. So that a month, if you're paying $1 in the pharmacy a pill, selling them for 10 and 12 at that time,
Right.
millions.
Yeah, I wrote I wrote a story called Generation Oxy for these kids.
I went to school with them.
You know the book Generation Oxy?
I have it at home.
Are you
I didn't
serious?
realize that
wrote
was
that book
and
in
now
prison.
now that you're saying Cox, I'm like, okay, obviously I seen Matthew B. Cox on I have it right on my
That's funny.
table.
Doug Dodd. And,
Yeah, I
and
went to
it-
school with them. I'm
Yeah.
a year behind them.
Oh,
I went to
okay.
Hudson High with them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like I met all of them except for Lance, and I traded emails.
The wildest one.
Yeah.
The wildest one.
Traded emails with Lance through Doug. So I was like, Doug, ask him this, do this. So we were going back and forth. But yeah, I wrote that. And I also wrote another story called Pain, which is there's a guy named Derek Nolan. And do you know who the George brothers were?
No.
Okay, they own the largest pain, the largest, whatever you want to say, franchise or whatever you want to call it, of pain management clinics in the country. I mean,
Okay.
60, it was 60 million pills that they put out. They made like 60
Wow.
or 70 million dollars, and there were 2 twins.
Wow.
And the guy that actually ran the clinics for him, his name was Derek Nolan. They've actually written a book about him. There's been a documentary about him. I wrote a story about him, which was like the only version of the story from him. But he was talking about just like, he was almost like he was a manager, but he was like the bouncer. He was like, you'd walk out into he was into the like the waiting area.
Mm-hmm.
People
People are sleeping on the floor.
People are dozing off
Because they just drove 12 hours from out of state.
Right. Well, and they're also on pills. Mm-hmm. I remember he had this one thing. I'll just tell you this one thing. We keep it was because it's just always cracked me up. He said literally he had a doctor come to him one time and say, so he said like the food trucks would show up.
Oh yeah.
And they'd show up to feed everybody and leave. And he said one of the doctors came to him and said, listen, Derek, I've had multiple people I've had like 4 or 5 people in the last 2 or 3 hours that have come in to get their scripts, and they've got like brown spots on them. It's not bruising. It's like dirt or something. I don't know what it is. Like, I didn't want to say it, but it's like 3 or 4 of them. And he goes, really? He goes, what is it? And he's like, I have no idea. He goes, I'll check. So he goes into the visitation room, and people are eating ice cream.
And falling asleep.
And they're falling asleep and hitting the ice cream. He goes, and they would wake up, they'd be like, and they'd walk in with a big...
Oh my God. I could totally see it. I've seen it. I've seen shit like that before. Yeah.
He used to call them zombies.
They were, yeah, because like at that time, they were calling them pill mills, obviously, because they were seeing groups of people. Instead of, you wouldn't just go in and have a conversation like with this doctor. They're seeing 10 at one time. Is everybody okay? Okay, here's everybody's scripts. Because they were just trying to get as many in and out. No insurance accepted, only cash.
Only cash, no checks, no this.
Insane.
And then he said the cops...
First visit, $500.
He said, and then the cops would sit outside. He said, and if you drove off and you had like an Alabama plate or whatever, an out-of-state plate, and you were leaving, he said, boom, woo! Yeah. They'd pull you right over, search your car. He said, and they'd always find something. Weed, meth, crack, whatever. They'd always find something because, if you're driving from Ohio down to Florida to get pain pills, it's probably not your only problem, so. Well, and, he said, he was explaining like how he said, then it got to the point where we would test them to make sure they were taking them. Mm-hmm. He goes, so they would know to take one before they got there.
I know people that would just drop it in their pee too.
Oh, okay.
I didn't even know something like that would work, but.
Plus the MRIs, he said they had a mobile MRI machine where they would say, go. Oh, your MRI is no good. You got to go back over there. Go get one. Come back. It's $1,100. Mm-hmm. And it's such a fucking racket.
Crazy.
But they met all the guidelines. He's like, we would meet all the guidelines.
Oh yeah, totally. They totally do. It was just how the guidelines were so. It was at that time where I think law enforcement and all that hadn't caught up with what was happening yet. Because of course they were meeting the guidelines, but
you can only put so many guidelines out there. All you have to do is get over it. Mm-hmm. If you just get around it. So I have to do this one thing. Yes. Okay. Well, I did it. Great. Give me my pills.
And then when they stopped you couldn't be out of state anymore, then they started getting out of state or in-state IDs. Like I was letting people I would take people and let them use my address to get a Florida ID to go to the doctor down here. Because that, you know what I mean? Because they were like, okay, no more out of state. You got to go, whatever. We don't take out of state patients. People started losing their fucking mind. So it's terrible. But yeah, I went to school with Doug Dodd and them. They were a little bit older than me, but I definitely read the book. My mom's read the book.
Seriously, that's awesome. That's cool. That's pretty cool, bro.
But, Tommy, the Generation Oxy.
He wrote the book.
I have it at home, but I didn't realize Matt Cox was Matt Cox, I guess. I didn't put it together. You know what I mean?
That's
I didn't put it together that he was the one who had read the book.
I'm excited about that. That's like the first time.
It was awesome. It was an awesome book. I think it was great. It's funny because some people, like the way that some people are described in the book, I know exactly who they are without their names being named. Like a friend of mine, I'm not even going to say her name, but yeah, I knew exactly who she was. They were talking about Doug, how he described her. It was perfect. It was an awesome book.
Yeah, it was wow, what a pain in the ass Doug was. To deal with. I mean, this kid was just first of all, he followed me around for like a week because I'd written another book from a guy named Ephraim Deveroli. Mm-hmm. And Ephraim Deveroli is Jonah Hill. He's played by Jonah Hill in the movie War Dogs.
War Dogs, okay.
So I'd written his memoir. And so Doug had read parts of it because he was like, their cells were close to each other. So then Doug came and he was like, bro, you got to write my book. I was like, bro, you don't even have a fucking story. And I kept like brushing him off. And he was like, what are you talking? You don't even know my story. I'm like, well, you're doctor shopping. Like if I want a doctor shopper, I'm like, I could throw a rock and bounce off 10 guys, right? That 100 guys, because Coleman had a huge turnover too. So you're not talking about the same 1,800 guys. You're talking about 3,000 new guys every year coming through. So I was like, it's not that big of a deal. I was like, bro, you don't even know what it is. And I was like, and I remember thinking, you're right. Opportunity knocks very softly sometimes. So don't be a dick. Listen to him. So I listened to him tell the story. And as he was telling the story, I thought, that's really not bad. It's not a bad story. Like there were some pretty cute things that I thought, you're not gangsters. You
Nope.
think you're a bunch of soft white kid that think they're tough guys, but you're not. You're really just a bunch of white trash guys that were grown in trailer parks and this and that. What's so funny is I said, look, okay, here's what I'll do. I'll write a synopsis. And if I can get some reporters interested in your story and get you into a magazine, like, I don't know, I said like Rolling Stone or something like that. I said, then I'll write the book. And he's like, bro, you think you can do that? I'm like, I don't know what I can do, bro. I'm in fucking federal prison. I got 20 years to go. I got plenty of time to see what I can do.
Yeah.
So I wrote a bunch of letters. I got a reporter involved, and he put the story in Rolling Stone magazine, and we sold the book and optioned the film rights to it. And I wrote his whole book. But this kid, when he first came to me, he was begging me to write it. And at one point he goes, bro, I'll give you half of everything, bro. And I go, that was always going to happen.
Yeah.
Like, you're not giving me something that wasn't like, you're not offering me something that's like, wow.
Yeah.
Like, what are you thinking?
I'm writing it.
Right. What? And he's like, no, bro, come on. So I said, okay, we'll write it like this, write it like that. And what's funny about that is when he started reading what I was writing, because I'm taking an outline and I'm writing it in first person because it's a memoir. It sounds like he's writing it because he can't write his own book.
Yeah.
So I'm writing it, and as we're going through it and I'm writing it, he's like, bro, that, honestly, you got to change some of this shit. And I'm like, like what? It's like you basically say that like we're a bunch of like trailer park trash guys or white trash. Like I even named one of the chapters upper class white trash. I mean, and he was like pissed off. And so I said, and I went, he was like, well, you make it sound like I grew up in a trailer park. And I went,
But he did.
but you did.
Yeah,
I said,
we grew up in Hudson.
right. I went, Doug,
I mean-
Hudson's almost all trailer parks. It's a lot. And he's like, no. And I went, okay, this one story I told, where did that happen? Well, yeah, that was my buddy's house. I go, was it a house? He's like, well, no, it was a double wide trailer. I said, it was a double wide. What about this story? Where did that happen? Well, man, that was a single wide. Okay, what about this one? Where did that guy live? Well, he lived in a trailer. It was a trailer park. It was a trailer. What about this? So I named like 6 stories, and I said, Doug, where were you raised at this time? He's like, well, I was living there with my mom, and I go, was it a house? He's like, well, no, it was a trailer. I go, okay, but I haven't always lived in trailers, and I get that, but let's face it.
Yeah, it's beginning where it began, though.
Right, but see, people can't see themselves as themselves. They
have a hard time accepting themselves.
By the end of the book, when he's read it, he's literally, guys would be like, bro, what's up with your story? I mean, Cox is walking around, he's writing your story like what's so great about your story? And Doug turns to the guy and goes, I mean, nothing, bro. I mean, we're just a bunch of trailer park kids, growing up and selling pills, man. And I looked at him, and he was like, he was like that, like,
because
I was like,
literally,
nice,
it's perfect.
Good.
Reading that book, if you were not from there, reading that book, it describes it perfectly. You get the picture perfectly.
Yeah, he owned it though. It's so much better to own it. Mm-hmm. And he did. By the end of it, he owned it. He was he was great, and that's what
story.
made it is his story. It is. It's a great story. Mm-hmm. There's nothing embarrassing about where you came from.
Nope.
So what? Doesn't matter.
And like Lance and Landon and them, they were like the kings anyway over there anyway.
Right.
They had more money.
And they grew up in a trailer.
Mm-hmm. And they were like big dogs.
Their
parents got them out of everything.
Listen, they were.
Shelter.
Huh?
They owned a homeless shelter.
Yeah. But not just that. Listen. Was it Landon?
Landon's older.
So what? Oh, okay, no, the middle one. Lance. Who was the oldest?
I think Landon's the oldest. Lance is the youngest.
No,
I think.
the oldest guy. I met him. I'm talking about the. Yeah, it was Landon. No, there's a third brother, but the one that I met and he was an amazing athlete. The black guys, like they had like a relay. They had races. They did. He was killing everybody. And I mean, the black guys were calling him the White Knight. They were like, that fucking white boy. Like he was.
Was it Richard?
Yeah.
Was it Richard Sullivan?
No.
Not
It wasn't Richard. Richard was the one that went to California to try and be like a porn star, right? So
Yes.
it wasn't, yeah.
Yeah, that's Richard. Yeah.
So you gotta love that.
Yeah, he's back now, but yeah,
Right.
yes.
So,
I
no,
forgot
this was
about that. Yeah.
This was one of the brothers.
Yeah.
But he was like a great, he got his tooth knocked out. Remember he got his tooth knocked out.
I'm trying, because I didn't know Landon because he was older. So Lance went to school with me, and I'm trying to think
It was
who their
Landon. It
older
was
brother
definitely,
was.
it was Landon. They have an older brother, but he was barely even in the story.
Yeah, I can't,
But
I don't know.
I'm sorry, I got off track because I'm
it's
excited
okay.
because it's about me.
Yeah.
So anyway, you were saying, it's a good story. story.
It is a great story. It really is.
And you grew up there. That's great.
I don't know. I'd have to ask Amanda and
I
them.
don't know. I have the book around here somewhere. Yeah, definitely. So wait, how old were you when you're actually writing the scripts at this point?
So I had to have been like 19, I guess, because
Yeah.
I would have went to jail, did my little 6 months, and got out. So I had to be about 19, maybe turning 20.
And the going to jail for 6 months, that's the
That
that's
was just
for the
petty thefts. But I was, stealing to use pills and
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
My boyfriend at that time, before my boyfriend with the scripts, had gone to jail. And so I was like, oh, how am I going to support my addiction now? I'm not working, because who works when they're, that far into an addiction? It's
Right.
like almost impossible.
Right.
So I wasn't working. I didn't have anybody that was providing me pills anymore. So I started stealing all the time, and that's what I started doing. And yeah, we didn't go to jail the first time, didn't go to jail the second time. Then the third time, of course, they went to jail.
Yeah, they get tired of it.
Yeah, so then they gave me, it was like, I would been in there for like a month, and they offered to give me like, can't remember, it was like 2.5 years probation. And I was just like, what? And my lawyer was like, I could get you 6 months in here. So I was like, let's just do it. And I was a trustee, I was out in like 4 or whatever. So that was easy.
So you don't want to do 2.5 because you basically have to take piss tests.
Yeah. And misdemeanor probation was really easy, but I had already been on it and violated it with another petty theft. So I was like, I don't want to do it. I've already been in. I got 2 months in. I only got to do like 2.5 more months, whatever. So
Right.
I just did it. And, of course, it wasn't enough. It wasn't anything. It was a joke. I was a trustee. I did laundry, got special treatment, all that shit. So it was nothing. I got out, started dating the dude that was 17 years older than me, and then we were writing the fake scripts. So eventually, how that came to an end was we were like down on our ass. By this time, we had moved out of our home. We weren't, we hadn't paid our rent. Our electric got shut off, whatever. And I was staying with a friend of mine, Stephanie. And she was a pain pill addict as well, and she had an infant son. And we all were living together, whatever. We would give her pills and, whatever. We all took care of each other. Well, one day we all woke up and she was really dope sick. We were all dope sick, but we only had enough pills for me and my boyfriend, and we were going to a doctor's appointment. So I told her, I was like, I'll take the baby with me. You just stay here, relax. We'll be back. It's just a follow-up visit, in and out. We'll be right back. Come down. We drive down to Pinellas County, go back. By the time we get back, when
Right.
I have
And
her
you-
son with me,
Okay.
my house appears to have looked like it was robbed, but it wasn't. The only thing missing was my laptop with my script formats on it that she turned into the pawn shop.
Right.
So when she sold it to the pawn shop, because she sold it to them, she didn't pawn it. So when she sold it to them, they immediately went in there to clean it out and seen script formats on there and called the cops. So then the cops were looking for her for a few weeks, and they eventually caught up to her, and she told on us, and that's how it all came down.
That's how that came down.
Yeah, that's how that came down. So we found out.
How much time did you? They came in. They arrested you. Did they call you nicely on the phone and say, "Would you please come by the?"
So I had seen that she had got busted. So I already knew. I was like,
she's
oh,
missing
fuck.
the good parts. She's like, so then no.
Okay, so
They didn't knock on the door and say, "Hey, listen,
No.
it's a misunderstanding."
So they so she I knew she got busted or whatever and arrested. I was like, great, she's probably gonna fucking tell on us, whatever. But we didn't really know for sure that she told on us. We didn't at this time. I didn't even know.
I already, the moment you said she got busted, she's on drugs. You're telling, like,
Yeah.
I got to get out of this.
So at this time, I didn't even know yet about the pawn shop yet, though. Like, I didn't know they were the ones who had called the cops. I thought she had just somehow got caught. Like,
did you realize, like, when you came home, did you realize, like, did you know immediately, like, she's telling you the story and you're like, oh, okay, but you're
No,
really
I knew
thinking,
immediately
oh,
it was
bitch,
her.
you sold it.
Oh, yeah, because I knew it was her, because if somebody robbed my house, I had plenty of other things to rob.
Right.
My printer was sitting right next to it.
Right.
She didn't take that. They didn't take that. I had just like a fire safe that you would keep your paperwork in my room,
Right.
full of jewelry. You literally could drop it on the ground and it's going to bust open. Anybody who's robbing a house is going to check. I don't care if you think it's paperwork or not. You're checking that little safe. So there was guns in the bedroom. You know what I mean? There's TVs there. She just dumped drawers and shit to make it look like somebody went through it. But the only thing missing is some cheap ass laptop. Bullshit.
Right.
Bullshit. So I knew it was her immediately. So she took her son. She left. We ended up going different ways, whatever. She gets busted, goes to jail. So at this time, I still didn't know that the pawn shop was the one who had called the police and all that, and that's how they found her. I thought that maybe they had investigated a pharmacy, seen that her scripts that she had been walking for me were fake or whatever. So she tells on us. Me and my boyfriend at the time were going to one of his doctor's appointments. It's in Tampa. We get there. I'm sitting out in the waiting room. He goes in. He comes back out. He's like, we got to go now. And I'm like, what? He's like, we got to go now. We get in the car, we leave. He tells me that they had him in the back. He was sitting in the back waiting for the doctor for about 10 minutes, 15 minutes. And then one of the nurses or whatever comes in and says, hey, look, Pasco Sheriff's Office was here inquiring about you. They told us when you came back for your visit to call them to come because they need to see you. They need to come get you. We called them. We've been waiting. If you want to go, go. That's what they told him, so he went. They're investigating you for trafficking, is what they said. We can't see you. You have to leave.
Trafficking pills.
Pills, yeah.
Like distribution? Or
Yeah.
It was
Like
drug trafficking.
Drug
Okay.
trafficking, because at that time, the law on trafficking was just how many pills you had. You know, like if you had, I can't remember the count.
Weight.
Yeah, it was by weight. So if you had so much weight in pills, it was considered trafficking, whether you were making a deal or not.
right.
It just if you had that much weight on you, it's trafficking.
It's just the term. I mean, the term trafficking to me, look, in the feds, like they have certain terms they use. In the state, like, for instance, you would never get charged with running a boiler room or conspiracy to run a boiler room in the feds. Like they don't have, that's not a charge.
Mm-hmm.
It would be, they have like, it would be wire fraud, or it would be mail fraud, or it'd be financial institution fraud. Like they have different names for it, even though you're running a boiler room. But then in the state, if they charge you, they actually have a charge called, like conspiracy to commit, or to run a boiler room.
Yeah.
And so the same thing with trafficking. Like you're saying trafficking in the feds is distribution.
Yeah, it is. That's what I mean by state too. They just like, so it'll be his would have been trafficking in controlled substance.
Okay.
And then, if,
Put the amount.
and then they would have put the amount. If it would have been
0 to
cocaine,
4 grams,
trafficking
4 to
cocaine.
14 grams.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So the 0 to 4.
But it is
means
distribution.
you're
I was just gonna say that. How bad is that? How bad? Like how?
It used to, so when what year was that? Like 2000?
And this is him.
11.
This is just him.
That's just
They
him.
don't know you're there, so it's maybe the same thing for you.
I wasn't seeing doctors.
Right.
I didn't have an MRI.
But is it the same thing? Like, is that what happened later? They were also looking for you.
Yeah, they were also looking for me. So, so they tell me he's being investigated for trafficking, so we leave. So, how did he even get arrested? Oh, at another doctor. Wait, no. How did Michael even get arrested? Court. Okay. So then so now we know that the cops are looking for us for trafficking. So we're like, whatever. We're not going to call them and say,
Right.
let's come talk to you, because obviously we
Let's
know
work
they have
this out.
some
Like,
type
we
of
can
evidence.
call
They
this
were
out,
at
yeah.
one of his doctors.
We're not gonna
They
have a cup.
they were at one of his doctors, so they have some type of evidence. They know what he's been up to. So
Yeah,
we're
what's
just
the evidence? They've got the girl, and they do have the laptop.
And
The
if
laptop's yours.
But the laptop was mine, but it has all these scripts on them, which are fake scripts, but they all mimic real doctor prescriptions, which I was copying from his real doctor visits.
So they're going there, and they go there. They check with
But
them.
also,
They've got the whole
I believe
connection.
when she told them, like, Andrea Carswell and Michael Nolan.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
Is who I've
No,
been living with.
I know that.
So,
But that's still just her word.
yeah. So then, but if they go in to investigate and
yeah.
see, you know what I mean? And then they look at CVS and see that Michael Nolan, Andrea Carswell, and Stephanie were running these scripts, they're all fake.
Right. And the
then-
doctor didn't write them. We talked to him. He
yeah,
didn't write
the
them.
doctor didn't write
She's
them.
got the stuff on her software. She puts it together. Okay. I mean, yeah, you have an issue. It's
But
an
the
issue.
laptop, mind you, the laptop didn't have anything to prove it was mine either.
Right.
So they couldn't prove that the laptop was mine. They just informed them to go find her.
Yeah. Which all worked out for them.
Yeah,
So you're
of
still
course.
done.
Yeah.
You're doomed.
So
yeah.
so we're, just me and Michael continue to do our same thing. We're living the same. We're just, one less doctor now because they won't see us. You know what I
Right.
mean? Is how we think it's going. So he is at the time going to court for a misdemeanor, like driving unsuspended, something really stupid. He's been to prison before, and it was really dumb, but he was going to court for it. And he ended up taking a 60-day plea, which now, looking back, why the F would we ever go and
Well,
take
why
a
would you-
60-day plea?
Why would you go to court?
Knowing they're looking...
Did
but-
you not have that discussion? Like, do you think maybe there's a warrant out, they're looking for us, and
I'm
they're going to
trying-
know we're going to be
Dude,
at
this
court?
is like fucking 11 years, 12 years ago now. I'm trying to remember like the series of events of how it went down. I remember though he went to court, he took a 60-day plea because then after he was in jail for a week is when they came and charged him with trafficking, talked to him, and asked him where I was.
Right.
So
Yeah, I was going to say.
I just can't remember what the fuck, because I remember going to the doctor, them looking for him for trafficking. Then he went to court for the misdemeanor. He took 60 days in. Yeah, that's how it went. He took 60 days in, and then after he was there a week, they came and hit him with 3 counts of trafficking, a few counts of obtaining controlled substance by fraud. That's, getting fake scripts, using fake scripts. And then he had called me from jail and was like, hey, you know, they're looking for you, asking where you're at. I was staying at some house that somebody was letting me stay there, you know, with fucking rats in it and shit, you know, that thing, because had nowhere else to go. I couldn't be at my parents' house with cops looking for me. I was so strung out on the needle. It was ridiculous. I was barely making it. And that's where the cops ended up finding me.
In the house?
In that house. They ended up raiding me at like 7 o'clock in the fucking morning. I was 90 pounds. They threw me on the floor, face down.
It saved your life.
Yeah. Yeah.
I always love these guys.
Rescue, not a rescue.
Yeah, I guess, yeah. You can definitely look at it like that. Yeah. So they came in at like 7:30 in the morning, you know, of course, guns and masks and, you know, the whole.
I know, like I understand you're a terrorist, that they
Yeah.
were like they're taking down a terrorist organization.
And I mean, they, you know, they said that they had been tapping my phone, and I guess they heard me say something about having a gun at the house and stuff like that. But ridiculous. So when they busted in and raided me, I had no pills, not any pills on me. I was actually dope sick at the time. All they found was a bag of like used needles, you know, and my empty prescription paper that I was technically allowed to have at that time. It wasn't illegal to have, so. So they took me to jail, and it was just like they charged me with 3 counts of trafficking. They charged me with obtaining controlled substance by fraud, and then I had some like dealing stolen properties that was just like pawn and stolen shit. And it was crazy because I was like, "How are you charging me?"
The way she says it, she says, you know, like if I had a dime for every time I fucking
dealing stolen
yeah,
property.
like everybody, you guys,
You know what that is.
Yeah.
Okay, so I went to fucking jail. I remember being like, how am I being charged with trafficking? Like, first of all, you didn't even catch me with a pill on me. You've never caught me with a sale, hand-to-hand sale. How am I being charged with trafficking? And I was told that because of the amount of pills I obtained by fraud, that it was no way I could be using all those pills.
Right.
But, I mean, I absolutely could have been.
Right.
If I wanted to. I mean, who's to say? You don't know. You know, whatever.
You'd have to have a massive tolerance. You'd have to be.
But if you think about like
You'd have to
the
be
ones, the
350
scripts that are
pounds.
in my name, you know, like the scripts that are in my name, I could have easily
Look,
used those.
I want to be on your side. I want to. There's
It's not happening.
It's like when they come and they say, you know, we found 5 gallons of blood, and we can't find Jimmy, and we have it's his blood.
Yeah.
And they're like, we're going to charge you with murder. How? You don't have a body? Because he can't live without
this much blood.
This much blood. So, you know, I hear you. But yeah, sorry.
Yeah, so they charged me with trafficking, which I didn't get because I was like, I didn't, you know, whatever. And I ended up beating the trafficking. They ended up dropping them. Or they administrative count closed them, whatever the hell that means.
Right.
They like pretty much
So
told
that
me.
you pled. So in order to get you, like it's a plea, right? You took
No,
a plea.
it wasn't
You
a
went
plea.
to trial?
No. They administrative count closed is this is what they told me. They said they close it,
Basically, no
but they
file.
can reopen it at any time if they ever found new evidence to support the trafficking charge.
Yeah.
Which I'm like,
They're
well,
never gonna do
you're
it.
never
Yeah.
gonna do that. So of course I accepted that. I took my I had like I want to say like 8 obtaining controlled substance by fraud and 4 dealing in stolen property. So I had never been on felony probation in anywhere in my life. These are my first felonies I ever got. I was 19 years old when I was arrested, 20 when I was getting sentenced. And my first offer was 5 years in state prison. And I was like, what? You know, I've only done 6 months in the county jail before that for misdemeanor, never been on felony probation, never been to a drug rehab, never done drug court, never done any of these things. What do you mean 5 years in prison? I'm 20 years old. You know,
Right.
like what? I was so scared. And, my public defender at the time was like, you're not going to get 5 years. The first offer is always crazy, da-da-da-da-da. So I ended up getting it down. I sat in jail for like 6 or 7 months, and I ended up getting what's called like a split sentence. And so they gave me 18 months in, followed by 24 months probation. So I did the 18 months in.
Well, you've already done.
6 months.
Okay, so you already did 6 months. Plus
6
you
months.
get gain time.
Plus
so
you get gain time,
basically-
yeah.
You went in for 6 months? That's not even worth
The
unpacking.
game time don't count when it goes to state.
Yeah, when it goes to state. So
She's
the
been in
6
county.
months, you don't get gain time off the 6 months from county.
Oh.
You see what I'm saying? It starts from the day I get in prison
Oh, no.
from DOC. So
That's-
the longer in county, the longer you're fucked.
Fucked.
Especially when you get a short sentence. Like 6 months on an 18-month sentence is pretty average. People sit in jail for 6 months before they get sentenced. You know, that's pretty average.
Yeah, and the feds is like a year. Yeah.
Yeah, so
It just drags.
That was fine. I did that, but when I got to prison, my first day, when I walk into reception, I'm informed that I'm a youthful offender.
How old are you?
I was 20. I was 21. No, I was 21 when I made it to DOC. I was 21, but youthful offender in the state of Florida is 24 and under.
Really?
After the age of 18, the state can decide if they want to put you in general population or if they want to keep you in YO status till you're 24, till your 24th birthday. So you have 24.
So what does that mean?
Boot camp. It's boot camp. And it's like fucking, so you're in prison with the regular, with the general population.
Like I already don't want to be here. Do I have to really march and get
so
screamed
now
at
I have to
constantly?
be with 16, 15, 16, 17-year-olds who are doing life, who are absolutely fucking wild.
Pills? For pills?
No, just for murder or whatever. You know, they're just in prison.
Yeah,
but
nice.
because they're minors, they have to be in the YO program. And since I was
And you weigh, you're what, 5'2", 5'3"?
Yeah, probably
And you
5'3".
weigh 115?
probably by that time, yeah, 115, 120 pounds. So I'm like, great.
God.
So I'm like, great, you know, I'm like walking up, I can hear, I'm like walking through the compound to the prison and like the YO dorms back here and the windows are open because you don't have AC in state. And it sounds like a fucking animal shelter.
Yeah.
You know, it was like, it sounded like a jungle in there. And I just remember thinking, oh my God, this is going to be hard as fuck. Because I knew people in prison already. I'd been in jail and on the streets with people who were in state prison, but not in a YO. So I get to this YO, I have to wear this yellow shirt with these crazy color train conductor hats, which is like, signifies your level in the program and your privilege.
Yeah.
We march, we chant, everything is done together. It was hard. It was rough.
So after that, you were probably thinking like, you know what, the military's for me.
No.
I'm going in the military.
No, I was
right?
like, no.
What, right? No.
Exact
Tommy?
opposite. After YO.
After that, she was probably thinking, you know what, the military life is for me.
Yeah.
I need to.
Yeah, right.
Listen,
I actually do well in like environments like
Right.
that, believe it or not. But which I think is from prison now. At that time, I didn't. I do now, but
Oh yeah, like I'm much better if I'm on a some kind of a schedule and I'm more something more regimented.
I plan
Right.
everything.
That's
Like
the
I
routine.
plan what I'm gonna
Right.
do. Yeah.
I was just thinking only because it relates to you. This is funny. We were going to, after I'd been locked up, I was transferred one time to go back to court.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was being we went through a transfer center. Now I've already been locked up like 7 years. So all the fright and the scariness and everything of prison is just like, whatever, bro.
Yeah.
Like it's over. So we were transferred, and then they transfer you. They'll take you from a bus here, drive you for 6 hours, put you here for 2 days, get you on another bus
Take
to
you
go
here,
here.
yep.
So we get off, and I remember there are these guys. They give us our blanket and our no pillow, just a blanket and your other bullshit and your stuff, and you walk into your cell, and it's like 11:30 at night. And there are guys, so there's like 8 of us. And as we're walking through on the second tier, and the guards are saying like, okay, this is your cell, this is the guys are on the windows banging like, bam, 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 put them in here, put them in here. And guys are fucking terrified.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there like laughing. I'm like,
it's just
like I'm watching the guys and I'm thinking like,
I've been in 7 years. I'm
Yeah.
like this guy, you're good.
Yeah.
You're good. Matter of fact, put me in with him
Yeah.
because he's funny.
Yeah.
Like for you to be pulling this shit at 11:30 at night, like I get it. These guys are scared. Guys are literally almost pissing their pants. Like, oh my god. I go, look, bro, you're in this is a low holdover. These aren't pin guys. You're fine. You're fine. And they're like, oh, bro, I can't do this. I can't do this. I'm like, calm down. They're fucking with you.
Yeah,
It'll be fine.
Yeah, they're absolutely fucking
But it's
with
terrifying.
You.
Like
yeah, if you don't know.
Initially, it's literally just uncontrollable shaking. Like, what's going to happen?
That's how I felt. It wasn't like I wasn't scared. Like I didn't think, oh my God, I'm going to die.
Right.
Like I was just like, great, this is going to be hard. I'm going to have to fight. I'm going to be in confinement because I've heard about YOs. I've already
Right.
heard about them. Like I said,
Oh,
you
they're
know,
worse than adult prisons.
because they haven't. Well, they don't have anything to lose, and they haven't fully matured.
Yeah.
So they don't. They're still children
Yeah.
in an environment where they have authority and all that. And
It's like being a 19-year-old. Like at 19, I would drive 130 miles an hour in my Ford F1 or my Ford 5.0 GT. You know what I'm saying? I would do that. Like now, if you said, "Here, Matt, get in this car and drive 120," I'd be like, "Are you out of fucking mind?"
yeah, because you know better now.
Anything goes wrong, I'm dead.
You're smarter.
Right.
So it was more like fear of like how hard this is going to be. I'm going to constantly be in confinement. I'm never going to be able to talk to my mom. She's going to be upset, yada, yada, yada. So I get there and it ends up not being that bad. I mean, it was wild. I kind of just stayed in my own lane though. Like I said, I was 21. I didn't know anybody in the program. And a lot of them had to go to school still and stuff. They went to school all day. I didn't do that. So I stayed in the dorm and worked because I didn't have to go to school. And eventually I did get into a fight. with a YO girl because she stole my ID tag. And in state prison, your ID tag is your money.
Right.
That's how you go to the store. And she could absolutely have used it and spent my money because all she has to do is pay the canteen worker to let her use my card. I knew it was her because I had seen her. I had kept it under my mattress when I slept. And she slept next to me. And for some reason, I seen her next to my bed. And I was like, what are you doing? She's like, oh, tuck in your blanket over here.
Oh, that's so sweet of you. Because,
Yeah.
I mean, all inmates are taking.
Yeah, I'm like, don't tuck my bed. I don't need you to tuck my bed. I got my own bed, you know? So I knew it was her. And she was like, I ain't got your tag. I don't have your tag. And it was this whole thing. And I was like, if you don't give me my shit back by the time we get back from from breakfast, we're going to have to fight. You know, all these YOs see what's going on. I can't be punked like this.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Fuck that.
Yeah, they'll be eating out of my locker after this.
Yeah, so I ended up, so we get back. She still wants to deny that we don't have the tag. So she went to swing on me first. I ducked it and hit her, and we fought. And then, you know, they said one time. So here comes the cops. We jumped off each other. The cops had already seen it. They could see it through the bubble. That's why they were coming. But I didn't want to get pepper sprayed.
Right.
So we jumped off each other. They asked us what happened. I was like, you know, it's just a disagreement. She tells them, she thinks I stole her ID tag. Well, dumbass, we already got into a fight. They're already going to take both of us to confinement. They're going to search both of our stuff.
Right. They're going to find it.
So they find my tag in her shit, but we still both went to confinement, which I was fine with. I didn't give a shit. So I went to confinement. The only thing that sucked about it was my first Thanksgiving and Christmas away from home. I had never been away from my family for Thanksgiving and Christmas, and I was in confinement. So I couldn't even speak to them, couldn't even do nothing, didn't even have a fucking pen to write them a letter.
Right.
You know?
You know what's so funny is
that
like
sucks.
It's all this like drugs and stealing and doing this and doing that and doing this, but the thing is, you know, you're still just a 20-year-old girl.
Yeah,
you know what
and
I'm
I
saying?
still,
It's
no
like,
matter
my
how
mom,
many,
I gotta talk to my mom. It's like, what do you know? It's like these guys are like robbing banks and getting into car chases and then being concerned if they can see their mother.
Their
It's
mothers,
like,
yeah.
what's like the disconnect there is just insane.
It was,
but yeah,
so I couldn't write them or nothing. But then I get out of confinement. You know, you don't get it. Most of the time, you don't get any extra time. Sometimes you lose gain time, but not really for fights because they happen so much.
yeah. Confinement's the shoe, right?
Yeah,
It's what do you got? You call
Confinement's
it-
the shoe. Yeah, they just call it confinement in state though. So I did that, and in confinement in state, since I was a YO, I could only have a YO bunkie. So for part of the time, I didn't have a bunkie at all in confinement, which some people say they like, but I'll lose my fucking mind if I don't have somebody to talk to, you know? So I had somebody, a girl came in with me, and we made like a little Christmas tree out of like paper and hung it on the wall, and it was fine. I got out, and the first day I'm out of confinement, I'm back in my dorm, and my sergeant calls me to the window and says, pack your stuff. You've been declassified. You're going to general population. I have no idea why. He had no idea why. I still have no idea why.
Probably because, well, clearly she's willing to fight.
So,
I mean, she's gonna be okay.
But yeah, I don't know. So, and when they said that, I was like, holy shit. So I start packing my shit. I'm all
so
excited.
were you were excited because you figured that's
I need to be
better
with the
than this.
adults. I need to be with adults.
Well, keep in mind, the whole time I was locked, like when I was in the U.S. Marshals holdover,
Mm-hmm.
like I'm thinking I'm better off here than I am in a prison. But everybody, guys that had been in before, like
No.
they're literally saying, "Bro, I can't wait to get to prison."
Mm-hmm.
Like what? Like, what do you want to go to prison? Like, to me, that's Shawshank, you know. But they're like, no, bro, it's so much better. You can get ice cream, you can watch movies, you can get a job, you can do. It's like
You live life.
yeah,
kind
you
of
can kind of have a little life in there,
sense
but
of normalcy.
But in yeah,
In county, you don't have shit.
No.
And then in YO, it's
the
like I said,
worst.
it's like boot camp. You know, YO, it was fine. Like I could have got through it. I would have got through it. But I was super excited to be declassified and go to general population and be with adults and be with people I knew. And when that happened, all the other YOs were like, "How did you do it? How did it happen?" I said, "I have no idea. I didn't do anything." You know what I mean? They just did it. So then I go over to the annex of the prison, which was another part of the prison where they keep, you know, general population. I was there for one night, and I was sent up to a private facility in the Panhandle called Gadsden, which at that time was probably the best women's facility in Florida, had the most reentry programs, had the most vocational programs, had a dog program. It was good. It was good to be there. It was far from my family, but it was like a breath of fresh air.
right.
I ended up going to school. I graduated high school. I have a high school diploma. So in state prison, if you don't have a high school diploma, they make you to go to school to try to get your GED. Not
Right.
everybody's successful, but you at least have to go to school.
I know. I taught GED.
Yeah. So
Some of those guys are just not getting it.
not getting it. Some of them are not getting it. So I didn't want to work in the kitchen though. There is something about prison kitchen I didn't want to do it. So I was like, you know what? I want to go to school. Well, in order to get into certain vocational classes, your tape tests have to be certain points, you know. So I would always pick like a vocation that my math was a little low on. So then I would have to go to GED class to bring my math grade up to get on the list for vocational. And that's how I did it. I went to school all the time in prison. Both times I was in prison, I stayed in school.
So you just kept picking.
I just kept going like back to like high school pretty much in prison. Really? Like I would pretty much go to the GED classes to try to get, I would need to get my math score up to get into, let's say, AutoCAD.
And then what? Once you got there, you'd switch it?
Yep, I'd go on to I'd go on the AutoCAD waiting list, and then you'd still stay in your regular class and wait for your vocational. So
Okay. Yeah, I mean it's just working the system. Like
yeah.
I kept entering the residential drug treatment program in Coleman, so they wouldn't ship me. Mm-hmm. I wanted to stay at the low because my mom could see me there, right?
Yeah.
And it was only an hour away. But the closest camp was like Miami or I don't even know. One was in like Georgia. So that's like a 4-hour drive. So I'll never see her. So I kept entering the drug program and staying. So they would keep me in the program. They'd keep me there. And then I would drop out. And then 3 months later, when they said, "Okay, you're going to be shipped," I go, "Oh, I can't. I got to go back to the drug program." I already, and I'd go back in.
Yeah.
I kept staying. I did that for I did it twice, but it really covered almost 2 years. It
Yeah.
kept me at the prison, just working the system.
Mm-hmm. I just didn't want to work in the kitchen, man. I just
That
didn't
was
want,
it?
That was it. That was it. And I did want to do vocational classes. You know, I mean, I did graduate high school. I do have an education. I do have goals, but I wanted to do some vocation. But at that time, when I went to prison the first time, like I said, I only had 18 months. Half my sentence was almost over. There's no vocational classes you can do.
Well, plus some of the vocational, like to me, the vocational ones at Coleman, it's like you go there and you learn how to be like, how to run a restaurant. Well, I'm never running a restaurant.
Yeah.
Or you go and horticulture. Like, okay, I'm not going to be a farmer.
Yeah. See, I did horticulture.
Right. Oh,
right?
okay. See,
So,
but to me, all that helps you to do is start a grow house.
Yeah, if I wanted to do that, which I don't have, there's nothing I'll use my horticulture certificate for.
Right.
I do have a friend, Jessica, who did AutoCAD. She was actually on Josh's channel. She did AutoCAD and she is a drafter now.
See, that's awesome. That's awesome because most people don't use it for anything.
She has such a great career now from that. It's crazy. It's crazy. She probably, I couldn't even tell you how much money she makes. But she was really good at it, and it was a really great opportunity for her. But AutoCAD was super hard to get into, and it takes a long time. And she had a 7-year sentence, so she was able to do that. But most vocation, no, because cosmetology is good for women. That's a good one. Then a lot of women want to do that in prison, but then a lot of them don't do it when they get out.
Yeah.
They think they want to do it, but then they don't.
Well, I was just gonna say, some of the guys like we taught GED. Mm-hmm. There was this kid. I only know his last name was Smith. Black guy named Smith. Just sold drugs his whole life. Never had a real job. Just sold drugs. But didn't even. And it was GED. He dropped out of high school, or whatever, like 8th grade or something. Mm-hmm. But he was amazing at math. Like didn't even know it. And then when he graduated, he then came back. Like my buddy Zach and I were like, look, you got to have the next guy you hire for math has to be Smith.
Yeah.
Like he's already teaching the others. He's already teaching the other kids.
And he had no idea.
Or the guys. Yeah. Came back. And I mean, that kid, it was him and there was another black guy there too who had dreads. They were both brilliant. And they loved it. And they actually had books sent from outside. And it was like to me, there's no way ever I'm going to be thrilled about math.
Me either.
But they loved
terrible at it.
And it's like, wow, these guys could they could have been something. You know what I'm saying? If
Yeah.
they had, but most people go to prison, they go to the rec yard and come back and there's almost no vocational training. There's no way to try and rehabilitate themselves.
None.
They get out, they sell drugs, they come back. Like it's just such a shitty system.
Yeah, because like I said, unfortunately for those vocational classes, first of all, most of them take at least, even like cosmetology, I think is like a 6-month vocational, and that's short. Okay.
Well, then it takes what, a year or two to even get in the
to
program.
get into it.
Right.
So then most people aren't even spending that long in prison, because if you get a 3-year prison sentence and you spent 6 months in county, and by the time you get to your main camp after being an R&O for 2.5 months, 3 months, by the time you get to your main camp and can get on the waiting list, it's too late.
Yeah. We used to say that all the time. Guys would come in with 6 months. We'd be like, yeah, it's not even worth unpacking.
No, just chill. You're just going to sit
you
around.
might as well start reading some books, bro.
Yeah, just relax, because it's not. So
because they'll be putting you in a halfway house. In a month, they're going to put you in for a halfway house. A month after that, you're going to be gone. You're down to 2 months.
Oh, yeah, in the feds, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I forget you go to halfway houses and stuff.
Yeah. And your split sentence is every federal sentence is a split sentence. Like
okay.
people are like, oh, you did this much time. Yeah, I also have 5 more years paper when I get out. It's not probation. It's just paper that if you do anything wrong, you go right back to prison. But they don't consider it part of your incarceration sentence.
That's crazy.
It's ridiculous.
That is ridiculous.
I mean, technically, my sentence was 26 years and 5 years. I technically got a 31-year sentence. But I don't say that because then you have to explain it to everybody.
Yeah.
And then they're like, well, I don't understand.
People are like, oh, you're lying.
Yeah. All right,
Yeah.
All right, I'm done. So I'm on probation. But anyway, so yeah.
So I did that. I just stayed in school, whatever. Like we said, I was only there a few months, I guess, and because I ended up signing up for work release, which work release in Florida is where when you still have a certain amount of time, you can go to a program and you go out in the community and you get a regular job. You wear regular clothes, you have all those
Cool.
privileges, and you go get a regular job and you get paid. Now,
How much do you get to keep?
about, after all said and done, probably 30%.
Which
And that's
sucks,
being nice.
Which sucks, but at least
it's
you're being.
It's
you're
better
being,
than nothing.
Right, absolutely.
It's better than being in
That's
prison.
what I would be in the halfway house, and guys would bitch because they take 33
Take it
or
all.
30. Well, no, in the halfway house they'd take like 30% or 35% of like everything you made, and guys would be bitching and moaning, and I'd be, I mean, bro, as opposed to they are feeding you, they are clothing you, they are keeping, well, not clothing you, but they're keeping like 30%. That's what you'd be paying an apartment. So
yeah, the
it's
work release.
something.
When I was in work release, the work release program itself took 55% off the top, and then they took 10% that they distributed to court costs, fines, whatever. So now you're at 65%. If you have child support, it automatically gets taken out because obviously you're working. If you don't have child support but have children, the work release center makes you send money to the caregiver of your children, regardless if you have to pay child support or not. So if you have kids and don't have child support, now you're looking at like 75% they've taken. But like we just discussed, you wouldn't have shit if you were in prison.
Right.
It also sets you up for after prison. It gives you, goals, stuff to work for, stuff to stay doing good for. So, I mean, it was fine. I did that. I went there. I did that for 6 months. I think I did maybe 4 months, something like that. And I got out of prison. Nothing happened while I was there. I didn't lose anybody. It was I don't want to say it was like a joke because it wasn't a joke. I didn't think it was a joke. I didn't take it that way. I knew it was serious, but it wasn't enough for me to be done with what I was doing. When I got out, it was the same. The boyfriend that I went to jail or prison with for the fake prescriptions, he picked me up with my parents. We immediately started using again. Yeah. We immediately started using again, and I was rearrested 67 days later.
67 days?
Yeah, and I went back for 5 years.
Holy, what was that? What was that arrest?
So
Just get caught with a bunch of pills, or
no. So when we got out, we started using again, and he had been to prison 3 times prior. So, or 2 times prior. 2 times prior at that time. So when we got out, what he used to do and had been to prison before is he would drive around neighborhoods, look for open garages, and steal generators, pressure washers, anything that you could grab and get quickly for money, right? Yeah, and it was like a whole thing. So that's what we were doing. And obviously, going to the doctor and stuff like that. But I believe you couldn't doctor shop anymore by the time I got out of prison the first time.
Where were you selling them? You're taking these and selling
To
them?
pawn shops.
Oh, okay.
So when I'm using, and like when I'm like in my active addiction and I'm using and shit, I don't care about the repercussions as long as they're not right then.
Right, of course.
I could give a fuck about credit card fraud, get me on camera. I don't care as long as you catch me later. I could give a fuck about giving you my ID at the pawn shop, catch me later. As long as I get this money right now and go get my pills, I don't care.
Plus most drug addiction in general.
I don't care about
the addiction's so overwhelming.
That you just don't care.
you don't.
So, so we were doing that. We were selling them at the pawn shop. We were at a pawn shop. Selling something, and the person we had stole it from pulled up at the pawn shop.
Trying to buy a new generator?
Was like looking for their shit, I guess,
God.
So we drove off out of there, hauled ass, because obviously the pawn dealer was like, I'm going to call the cops. So we hauled ass. I actually called Tommy and was like, what the fuck do I do?
How do you know Tommy at this point? You're
So-
dating the other guy.
So I grew up with Tommy's family, and his younger sisters are my age. They're the family that lived 2 houses down from me.
Oh,
Yeah.
the troublemakers.
Well, they're not the troublemakers, but they were just a big family. Yeah. So they're the family. So I grew up with his brothers and sisters. So I had his mom. I had been calling mom since I was 13 years old. You know, they're my family. So I called Tommy and I'm like, what do I do? They're gonna go to my mom's house. I just got out of prison. They're gonna go to my mom's house. And Tommy was like, well, you either can run and they're gonna go to your mom's house, or you can go back to the pawn shop. It's up to you. You know, he's like, that's your 2 options. I mean, what else do you want? You know, he's like, come meet me right now. I'll take you back up there. So I went and met Tommy. I went back to the pawn shop, tried to give the cops some lie. You know, it didn't work. I ended up going to jail. So I'm going to jail. They're asking me where Michael is because he didn't go back with me.
Right.
And we also had a stolen vehicle that we'd been driving around for a month. So Tommy takes me back. They take me to jail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Just a little Grand Theft Auto.
Don't worry about the little GTA.
yeah.
Just whatever.
Yeah,
So
that's
they end up-
everybody's done that.
All these felonies she just keeps.
Yeah, you know, and you know.
Well, I wasn't my Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah, and-
So
You're driving around in it.
so I get arrested. They're taking me to jail for dealing in stolen property. Tommy goes to leave the pawn shop. They're looking for Michael. I'm telling them I don't know where he is. I jumped out of the car, got with Tommy, whatever. Tommy goes to leave. They follow Tommy. Tommy meets Michael. And they busted Michael, right? So, because Tommy was going to get Michael, he's on foot. So Tommy's going to pick Michael up to take him.
Hey,
So they pull the car over.
So Michael calls me. I tell Michael, Andrea's going to jail, bro. I'm on my way out of the pawn shop now. I got a pocket full of pills, but I go to the doctor, so I'm good.
Right.
And your leg was
Shit.
broke at that time.
And my legs broke at the time. So he's like, where you gonna come pick me up? They found a blazer while I was trying to watch you guys at the pawn shop. This, that, and the other thing. I said, well, listen, I don't think it's a good idea for me to come get you right now. Give me like 30 minutes, let me shake these cops, because I know they're following me. They think I'm gonna come get you anyways. I guarantee it. No, bro, please don't leave me here. I'm stuck. Tommy, please don't leave me. Please don't leave me. Right? I slide over to Home Depot, pick him up.
Bam, detective.
Going down Scenic Drive over in Pasco. And I start seeing all these unmarked cars, marked cars, all this. I said, bro, they're finna pull us. You're going to jail. You want to get out and run and try? Bro, they're not going to pull us, bro. They don't know.
He was an idiot.
Next thing you know, bro, cops are jumping medians, okay, to pull us over, turning on the 19 off of Scenic Drive, and went Jasmine up to 19. And when I tell you there was 35 cops that surrounded us, I'm not bullshitting you.
It was ridiculous.
Threw us all on
For
the ground.
for dealing in stolen
They're trying to
property.
get me out of the car and throw me on the ground. I said, man, you know who the fuck I am. You ain't after me. The fuck off me. You ain't throwing me on the ground.
Yeah, it was ridiculous.
I mean, honestly, like one car with a light when you would have pulled, just oh look, we're pulling over. Like
Yeah.
I'm not getting into a high speed chase with you.
Wait, for you, when
it's
it's not anything to do with me. Like
Right.
it had nothing to do with Tommy. Tommy was just taking me because I was so shook up and so scared.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because my boyfriend's with me. Instead of saying to him, "What do I do?" I called somebody. Obviously, I didn't even trust this motherfucker.
No, he's
period.
unreliable. Yeah,
You know, I'm like,
he can't make a good decision. Obviously, he picks up and
'cause if
calls
it-
Tommy and says, "Come get me." Well, the cops are behind me.
Yeah, 'cause if it was
they're
up to him,
around.
we would've left state
Just come
right
get
then.
me. Just come get me. All right, bro. I mean, the drugs are just completely fucking got you delusional.
Yeah, and of course I didn't want to go back to the pawn shop and turn myself in, but the thought of the cops swarming my parents' house after I had only been out of prison 2 months, I couldn't.
Right.
I couldn't. It just was too much for me. It really was. And I would have loved to say that like I didn't go back, but I did. I went back. I turned myself in. He takes me to jail. I get arrested. I got another 12 felonies.
Just for drugs.
Well, one was a violation of probation because I was on probation for the first prison sentence.
Right.
Then I had dealing in stolen properties and false information to pawnbrokers, but I had so many. So it was like another 10 or 12 felonies I got with a
Right.
violation. So I'm in jail, and obviously I don't have a bond because I had in Florida you don't get a bond if you violate felony probation.
Right.
So I didn't have a bond, so I knew I was going away for a while. I'd already been in prison. They came and served me with a paperwork that's for PRR, which in Florida is a prison release reoffender. So it says that the first 3 years you're out of prison. There's certain crimes you cannot commit.
In the feds, they call it recency.
Okay, yeah.
So if within 1 year of getting off, within I think it's 3 years of prison and like 1 year of probation, if you committed another felony, boom, then
Yeah,
it's like
they'll max
they give you like another two or three points. So you're doing at least another few. You may be another 2 years. It may be another 8 years, depending on where you fall. But yeah, it's the same thing.
They served me with it because I got burglary, and burglary fell under the PRR list, and I had only been out of prison 2 months. And
Why burglary? Like I thought it was the pawn shops.
Yeah, I got
'cause
burglary
you're-
charges for being so I left
for
that.
gritting the stuff out of the garage.
So, and I never went into a garage, but since I was in the vehicle, it's the same. You might
Yeah,
as
yeah.
well be. He went into the garage.
Right.
I popped
It's
the
like
hatch.
I'm driving the getaway car for a bank
so it's
robbery.
the same. So
You just robbed the bank.
I did get 3 burglaries plus the dealing in stolen properties and then that. Well, burglaries fell on the PRR reoffender list.
Right.
So they came and served me with paperwork saying that I could 15 years. You know, that they could pursue PRR whatever. So I ended up going to court for a long time. I was in county jail this time for 15 months. My offer from them was 15 years. So I opted to go to trial on my burglaries because 15 years to me, I mean, now, like, when I think about
you can't
15
really
years.
you can't really prove that I went in there. You can't really, like, there's just.
Exactly. Yeah, you can prove that I had the stuff and then I pawned it, in which you
Right,
did
but-
that, but you couldn't prove because.
But he robbed it, brought it
Yeah.
to me, and then I brought it. Like,
So-
If they're gonna give you 15 years anyways,
you might as well
go.
try.
they ain't gonna give it to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So, and I had already gotten my discovery, which, explains all details of your case, all evidence of your case. So I knew that a witness had stated that it was my co-defendant and another man because I had a hood on. And then another witness stated it was a green truck and it was a blue one.
Right. There's some
So there was no
serious inconsistencies.
Yeah, there's some serious inconsistencies. So I was going to go to trial on my burglaries. So at jury selection, I want to say it was like my first jury selection.
How terrifying is that?
Yeah, right. So at my first time for jury selection, the state said they were not ready. So we were like, oh, okay. So then when I went back in for my second jury selection, they had offered to, what did they end up doing? Because I got convicted of burglary. They dropped PRR, which took off the 15 mandatory. And then so my point system, I had I want to say 154 points, which scored me almost to 9 years. So I still didn't want 9 years.
Yeah.
Like most people are like, oh, you could have got 15, 9. No, I don't want 9 years.
Yeah.
I'm a drug addict. I need help. Somebody help me,
Right.
So I didn't want to take the 9 years. And so what I ended up getting was a downward departure.
Right.
Because one of the witnesses said that the other person stayed in the car so we could prove that I was a minimal participant in the activity. My co-defendant was already being sentenced for PRR, so he was already getting 15 years. He had taken that. He'd been to prison 3 times before. They hit him with habitual, violent career criminal. He took 15 years. So they gave me downward departure, and I got 60 months, 5 years DOC, followed by no probation is what I thought. Is what I thought I was taking.
Right.
So I took 5 years, and I went to prison. I went back to the same prison up in the Panhandle, Gadsden. It had gotten a little worse because, of course, they cut prison. When they budget cut, they cut prisons and stuff first, obviously, always. But again, it was still a private prison, so there was still a lot of good stuff for being there. That's when I did horticulture. And I took it a little bit differently. My brother got married, and my brother is my only sibling. He's been with his wife now for like 16 years. He got married while I was there, so that was pretty devastating for me. Like, it sucked to miss that. And then my father also passed. So while I was there, I kind of like looked at things differently. I tried to listen to people older than me, like their stories, their advice, and just see where I could change my life, because I didn't want to be 40, 50, 60-year-old woman in prison.
Working.
No, because this isn't working. And now like I wasn't, the first time I was a kid and the second time I was still a kid. But my mind had changed differently. And I was like, this just isn't for me anymore. Like, I became lonely. I was sad, And the first time I was lonely the first time, but I don't remember. It was a different sense of loneliness. Like, I felt empty the second time I was in prison, So I did horticulture. I did that. And the state of Florida wanted me to go to what's called pre-work release before regular work release this time. Pre-work release is basically a rehab in a state-run rehab. So that's what I did. I went to Bradenton, Florida, to Bridges of America, it was owned by Department of Corrections, and it was a rehab. And I was super successful, and I'm super thankful for that. It's obviously something you have to take it and you have to do it if you don't want to, and you're always going to have people that don't want to be there. They're just getting through the motion,
they're
getting
faking their way through
getting
it.
out of prison, and that's fine. But I learned a lot about myself, about the way to deal with life, myself, my coping mechanisms, mental illness in others and myself. I learned a lot there. So it was good. And then I went to regular work release again, and I got a job at a restaurant, and I still work there to this day, 6 years later. So it was fantastic. I relocated to where I lived. I went to work release in St. Petersburg, and I relocated there, and that is where I built my life and my family now. So,
All right.
yeah.
That's cool. I was just going to say the RDAP program that I told you I went into twice. Like that's like to me, somebody asked me the other day, like, should you change? Like, if you could change something about, prison. I was like, every single member before you get out, you have to pass that program.
So
those are great programs. They teach you all about your criminal thinking and what the errors are. And like, you're like, doesn't everybody think like that? No.
Nope, they don't. And it also taught me to a lot of conflict resolution. Like, I always try to look at the other person's point of view now.
Yeah.
Always. I always try to. I may not agree with them or disagree with them, but I always try to look at their point of view and see it from their side before I react. I also think they're great programs. The one I was at is now shut down because, like we talk about, they close work releases and pre-work releases first. So there is no more of that program, which is crazy because the success rate from that program, just the people I know alone, it's like, because my best friend now, she went through the same thing. We went through the same, pretty much the same prison sentence. We went to Bradenton, work release, Gadsden, horticulture. She did 5 years, I did 5 years. And she is super successful too. And she went home to her exact town, to the exact place she was from. And she's 5 years out and doing fantastic.
Instead of them saying, you know what, the programs that are set up that actually we can prove work to help reduce recidivism, we're going to cut the budget. Should we knock 25% off of everybody's sentence and put more money into these programs so that we don't have to keep locking these people up? Or should we cut the program so that in the end we'll have to build more prisons? Which one do we go for? Oh, we'll shut those programs down.
Crazy.
Do the basic fucking math.
Yeah, it was so disheartening when I heard
sense.
that.
It's the same thing with us. Like, okay, so we spend 21,000 in the state, and I think it's like 35,000 in the feds to put an inmate per year to keep an inmate in prison, or and then we spend like $3,500 to educate like a student. So how about we double that for students and we just cut the fucking prison population? Like, there's the money.
Yeah.
No, let's go ahead and we'll spend less money on schools.
Or like we talked about with like
sense.
ridiculous vocational programs. And I'm not saying horticulture is a ridiculous program, but how many people in prison really are going to get out and use horticulture in their life?
They are. They're going to go open grow houses.
Why would you
That's
spend,
true.
like the prison I was at had a greenhouse.
Right.
So that means that this prison spent all this money to have a fucking real greenhouse, but we're getting rid of the rehabilitation centers that are actively working. Like, they work. No, they don't work for everybody, but it's crazy. Me and my friend, we still use terms to this day that we use there. We still use thinking this way. Like, when I'm super overwhelmed and super aggravated, I'll call her and I'll say, bro, I'm about to shut the blinds. I'm about to close the blinds right now, because that's what we used to say,
The chick that I used to date, because she went through RDAP too, and she would say, I'd say something and she'd get a super optimism. She'd say, come on, that's super optimism. I go, don't. Or she would say, that's a thinking error, right? And I go, stop.
Thinking error.
Stop
That's
it.
a good one.
Yeah. Oh yeah. We would just constantly, it's like throwing back and forth at each other. It's like, don't do that. Don't do that.
It was a great program for me. I was thankful for it. I almost didn't go to it, to be honest. I didn't want to go to pre-work release when I was in prison talking about it. I was like, they're just going to end up sending me back. It's just going to be some reason for me to get in trouble. And my friend Stacy, it was actually one of my friends, really good friends. She referred to her as her mom in prison, Stacy was like, why not at least try? If you get sent back, so fucking what?
Yeah.
You'll be right where you are right now. And I thank her every day for having that conversation with me, because she made me change the decision to go. And if I wouldn't have gone, I might not be where I am.
Yeah.
I really might not. You know, it sounds so cliche to say something like that, but
Yeah,
it's
but
the
cliches
absolute
are cliches
truth.
because a lot of times they're just true.
Yeah, it's the absolute truth.
You know?
If I wouldn't have gone, I might have made it to regular work release and used again, or got out and used again.
Or not even that. Next time you just might you got lucky you didn't overdo. How many people do you know that have fucking overdosed? Like, you may not have even got the third chance.
Yeah, exactly.
So
exactly.
But yeah, okay. Is that? I mean, what are we doing?
I mean, whatever.
I don't know. Listen. I'm a talker. Like, I'll talk another 45 minutes about nothing.
About nothing.
Nothing.
I mean, I was on probation when I got out this time, which I didn't know about, but because when I got
do they cut, like, if you're good on state probation, will they end it early?
If you're sentenced that way, when you get sentenced, you have to be sentenced to 4 years probation with early term.
So if you're good
and meet all your conditions, and it's usually half the time.
Right.
But sometimes they'll let you, like, so when I was sentenced to probation with early term as soon as I pay. So if I would have walked out of prison and paid every single dollar,
You're off.
I was off.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, it was like $12,000 fucking dollars. So
that's the issue with me is like, everybody I know is getting off on half their probation. Boom, done. But if you owe restitution, you're not eligible to get off at the halfway point. So, they won't put you in. You can't put in whatever. It's like, okay, well, I owe $6 million, so it's gonna be an issue. Like, so, and they're like, well, I mean, that's the way it is. Yeah, but you're holding me to a higher standard.
Yeah, exactly.
So I've been good for 2.5 years. I have another 2.5 years. Yeah, well, why can't I get off? Like, I still owe the money. I'll still make the payments. No, you're not eligible. It's just stupid.
It is stupid.
Whatever. But yeah, okay. I was just wondering about that because I know people that are getting off like left and right.
So when I went to prison the first time and I got the 18 in followed by 24 out, and then I violated with new charges. When I went to court, normally what they'll do, since you're getting a 5-year sentence, is they'll terminate that probation.
Right. But they just kept it up.
He terminated all charges but one. Which you should have just kept them all then. You know what I mean? So when I got out of prison from my second time from my 5-year sentence, I did have probation. And it sucked, but I did it, and I got off in a year, and I early termed it, and I paid my money, and they can kiss my ass now.
Well,
but
that's not really my option.
Yeah.
Okay. So a lot of things would have to go right. All right. That's we're good.
Yeah. And
All
now
right.
I've been clean 9 years.
Nice.
Yeah. So.
And you're dating Tommy.
Yeah.
I mean, not everything works out. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
About
And we're
that.
getting ready to have a grandkid.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Yeah, my daughter's
Yeah.
baby.
His oldest is having a baby.
How
She's
old are you?
19. I'm 32. I'll be 32. Tommy's 42.
Oh
Well, he'll be 42.
Yeah, watch your mouth.
32. You're like a baby. All right. So are we done? What are we doing?
If you're good, unless you want to keep going.
I can't. I mean, I think this covered it. Yeah. I did a better job than Josh did. So anyway, all right. So Josh would be like, bro, what are you doing? Hey, I appreciate you watching, and do me a favor. If you like the video, subscribe, hit the like button, hit the bell, share it, and leave a comment. And Andrea, you did a great job.
Thanks for having me.
All right. That's it. See ya.